Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 130 of Engagement in Peril by Dara, Odoe, Suk. Chapter 130 is titled Accepting Demonic Consequences. During the middle of his 17th year of life, Shinchin had to put aside pride in gang brotherhood to respect the life of a stranger's family. Shinshin wasn't the type to kill or maim anyone unless provoked or in defense of himself. Shinshin still had a beating heart, and at times that heart sought the comfort of warmth, love, and peace. Shinshin had never committed murder in his life, but this day too had come to pass for Shinshin. During one of their safe home invasion robbery of local merchants and such, Shinshin crew had accidentally killed a young girl in the process. Shinshin had canvassed and skillfully watched over a local jewelry business for months. The business was owned and run by an Asian family, consisting of a middle-aged couple with their three children, an older son who mostly ran the store and dealt with customers on a daily basis, a college-age daughter attending at the local university who was majoring in business, and a 12-year-old middle school girl who was attending school who seemed to be the apple of their parents' eye. During one of his stakeout lookout of the family-owned business, Shinshin had befriended the 12-year-old girl, Shelley. She was doing her homework outside their store at one of their benches for public use. She had thought nothing of it. Shinshin wasn't that much older than her, and she didn't mind talking to this nice-looking lad who had one day had come up to her on the streets. Shinshin had stirred up a friendly conversation about her schoolwork and even helped her with a few math problems. Eventually, after about a week or so, Shinshin spoke to this 12-year-old girl on a regular basis near her family store. The two have grown to know each other somewhat throughout their nonchalant and minuscule conversation of schools and stuff on television. To Shinshin, Shelley seemed like the younger sister that he never had, and he treated her like as such. A few times the younger girl even brought Shinshin some snacks and drinks. She seemed to begin to show signs that she was and had some interest in Shinshin, who was only about 5 years or so her senior. More feelings than friendly gesture, you can take that from this. Shelley had formed a crush on Shinshin. Shinshin had thought nothing of the relation with the girl. He had decided and made up his mind about this task of robbing her family. And Shinshin was firm on this task. He wanted to help out his fellow crew member and saw no harm in robbing these people. No one was supposed to get hurt when their plan of home invasion robbery was to take place that Halloween day, since everyone would be out and about in costume, going from door to door, trick-or-treating and whatnot. Shinshin didn't look the gang type, and he dressed appropriately and had no tattoos. Nor did he shave his head or wore his clothes inappropriately. He was simply the brain in all this. The girl and Shinshin seemed to enjoy their time spent together, and after a few months of courtship, whatnot, after all the data information he needed of his stakeout about the family, Shinshin put his plans into effect. He had kept record of what the store had opened and closed. He knew the cars they drove and what the family parked their cars at their stores and location. And he knew where and how far their home was from the jewelry store. Also, with some Asian families and intuition, Shinshin knew that Asian merchants usually take their money and cash home with them since they didn't really trust banks and authorities. During one full lit evening after the jewelry store had closed up and the family had driven home, Shinshin and his crew, in their various monstrous costumes, and in several of their older model vehicles, Japanese vehicle, Hondas, Nissans, etc., followed the family toward their home, which was situated on the east side of town, near the local state university. The crew followed slowly and meticulously, being mindful not to draw suspicion and attention from the car ahead or from the patrolling local police vehicle that was out and about patrolling that nice neighborhood. Shinshin had a Guy Fawkes costume and mask, a Roman Catholic English soldier who attempted to bring down the entire English Parliament in November of 1605. Shinshin wore a plastic porcelain mask of the Vendetta character and cloaked in black attire from head to toe. With a sleek black cape and a large circular brimmed hat, Shinshin discussed and reviewed their plans and plot, making sure that everyone know their role and making sure that nothing goes wrong once they start their plan of home invasion that evening. After about 20 minutes of driving and trailing the merchant's family home, with hooded and scurry masks on, the crew of 10 invaded onto the home's property. Shinshin directing and assigning the duties of this group that night, and a few other were outside of the home, being the lookout while the other readied himself to enter this and ransack the designated home to be invaded during that festive Halloween night. After cloaked and ready for their invasion, they rang the doorbell, and while Shinshin looked on from afar, he saw that his 13-year-old girl that that this 13-year-old girlfriend, Shelley, had opened door her home. Shelley had opened her home's front door, and from the fright of seeing the masked men on their front porch, the little girl screamed at the top of her lungs. In fear, she screamed for help, and in seconds, a shot was heard. One of the invading crew had accidentally dislodged his pistol and shot the carefree girl in the chest. From the sudden shrill of her fear and sound of a gunfire, the girl family ran to her side. The fallen girl's older brother had grabbed his handgun from one of his bedroom drawer and came to see what was going on. From the accidental discharge of the firearm, the member of the Hill Street crew ran back to their cars and took off from the crime scene. Shinshin drove away from the crime scene with some of his crew with him, while everyone ran every which way. Trick or treat. Trick-or-treater and their guardian and patron took to the ground, falling atop the soggy grass and concrete sidewalk, dodging out the way of the bullets running thugs that had witnessed escaping toward their direction. The fallen girl's brother ran outside after the assailant and began to shoot at the fleeing cars. About a block away from the invading home, Shinshin slammed on the sedan's brake and pulled over to the side, while the other getaway vehicle streaked by to get away from what just had happened. In shock and frustration, "Damn it! We killed the little girl!" Deafening, Shinshin screamed in the car. He was angry for what had just happened, but he was more disappointed in himself for not doing anything more. His thought was quick and rambunctious. He thought maybe if the girl had seen his face, then she might not have screamed from the fright, and she might have not been shot accidentally. At that moment, he felt remorseful. He wished he had planned all this in the process. He wished that he had planned all this in the process. He wished he hadn't planned the home invasion. He wished nothing this would happen. If he hadn't planned to home invade the family, that girl whom he had to befriend would probably be alive still, he had thought. After a few moments and contemplating over the accident in his mind, Shinshin exited the vehicle and told his crew to leave the area. They didn't really question him then. They left Shinshin there all alone in the dark and drove off back to their hideouts. After a few good deep breaths in the dark, Shinshin had finally decided and made up his mind of what he must do. He ran back to the scene of the accident shooting. Only a block away, he ran toward the shooting girl's home. While running back toward the invaded home, Shinshin knows that her brother was still in the middle of the dark street with his gun in his hand, still pulling the trigger on the already emptied gun. Shinshin ran onward toward the girl and he had come to like. Wishing that she hadn't died, he ran up to her lit front porch. The dead girl was being held in her tearful mother's arm. Looking into the well-to-do, nicely decorated home, Shinshin saw that the girl's dad was on the phone, talking to the emergency dispatcher of his home invasion, and that his daughter had been shot. Not minding that what was going on with the girl's parent, with his Halloween mask removed from his head, Shinshin told her mother that he can help. He went straight for the girl. He was seeing if she was breathing or if he could feel any pulse. In disgust of himself, Shinshin too began to tear and cry for this tragic loss. Because of him, he had gotten a little girl shot and killed. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Shelley." This was all Shinshin could say to the girl's mom and dad, who was still in a state of shock. Minutes later, several police vehicles arrived in the crime scene and tended to the family's need an ambulance. An ambulance arrived shortly after, and the girl was pronounced dead then. Shinshin didn't bother to leave the scene. He just simply didn't bother and just didn't care what would happen to him from then on. The girl's older brother returned to the house, and once he had heard the cops coming toward their home. The girl's older brother had returned to the house once he had heard that the cops coming toward their home. No one really questioned at first why Shinshin was there. Everyone was in shock and didn't really care who was there looking. The family was questioned by several police officers in their home while Shinshin was still outside following the dead girl's body, which was being transported into the ambulance. From the sight of Shinshin, her brother had noticed him from before and around their jewelry store. He told this to the cops nearby. The younger cop looked on. Shinchin's pace was awkward looking and seemed he was involved with that girl, unlikely of some stranger. This gave a cop some suspicion, and Shinchin was ordered to stop. And he was then questioned by a cop. Before the cop could ask his first question or properly introduce himself to Shinchin then, Shinchin blurted out and that he told all that had happened and what he had planned these past months. I'm sorry, officer. I know that girl, Shelley. I know her from around the family's store. Shinchin had confessed to this crime of home invasion gone wrong scenario. After hearing what Shinchin had said, the attending cop quickly advised Shinchin of his Miranda rights and placed him in handcuffs and under arrest. Shinchin was put Shinchin put up no resistance while the cop arrested him. While being driven to the police station, Shinchin had not much to say. He waited and waited until it was the right time. Once at the station, he was booked, his name was learned, and Shinchin was charged with the crime of home invasion and second-degree murder of the little 12-year-old girl then. After being fingerprinted and mugshot photo taken of him, Shinchin was placed in an interrogation room. For several minutes, he waited for the detective that he would be talking to and gathering information from him. A detective came in, introduced himself, and advised Shinchin of his rights once again, and that he had gotten the notes of his confession from the cop at the scene. He asked Shinchin if he wanted a lawyer. In reply, Shinchin shook his head. Yes. Yes, I do. The detective then left the interrogation room and about half an hour later returned with a district-appointed lawyer for Shinchin. After the introduction and some discussion with the lawyer present, the detective asked Shinchin, "Are you sure you want to confess to this crime of home invasion and accidental shooting? And are your statement to the officer there who took the report from you true and that no one coerced you into saying this stuff?" The detective asked Shinchin. With some word from the appointed lawyers whispering into his ear, Shinchin did nothing but shook his head in agreement. "We need you to say yes to the microphone there. Your voice needs to be recorded for the record," the questioning detective stated. Yes, yes, I agree to those statements and words that I had told to the officer at the scene are true and that no one told me to say so. I had planned all this out and the home invasion robbery went terribly wrong and a little girl was shot in the process. In agreement, Shinshin spoke into the recording microphone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that Shelley died, and please tell her family that I am truly and regrettably sorry for their loss. Those were Shinshin's last words that night at the police station. He was then taken and put into holding cells to wait for trial. For the next few days, Shinshin waited in his cell. Filled with grown men, he stood his own, and no one really bothered Shinshin. Then, since Shinshin was still a juvenile, he was quickly arranged for court, and trial began shortly after. Shinshin's trial went about quickly and abruptly. With his own words and written confession of his plans of invasion and all that went on during the night, and Shinshin refused to name the other involved with the home invasion, and that he pleaded guilty to all charges, the court quickly gave him their deliberations. Shinshin was found guilty to the home invasion and guilty of second-degree murder. He was given 7 to 10 years in a juvenile detention hall, with the option that when he turned 18 and become an adult, he can be retried as an adult for the crime and entitled to a stiffer punishment and longer time in prison. Throughout the whole trial, Shinshin kept to himself and didn't argue over anything. He simply accepted his punishment and the guilty verdict that was deliberated by the juror in his trial. After being deemed guilty of all charges, Shinshin was handcuffed and bused to Nellis Juvenile Detention facility, where he was served the next few months there before turning 18 and returned to trial to be charged for the same crime, except as an adult this time, where it is possible that he may be given life imprisonment. Luckily for Shinshin, while at Nellis it was discovered that he was and where he had come from, and how he grew up with so many people who cared for him dying from the devastating outcome. It was discovered that who he was and where he came from, and how he grew up with so many people who cared for him dying from devastating outcome, and that Shinshin was some sort of prodigy then. So the court decided to give him a deal to better himself, and perhaps he can be able to serve the general public and be a good, productive citizen in the long run. We all know what had happened from then on. Ultimately, he was offered a deal and turned over to the United States Navy and given the opportunity to change who he is and what he is. In short, we all know of what had happened to my dearly beloved Shinshin then. who tragically died that day when I wasn't able to save him. Thank you for listening. This is the end of chapter 130. Be on the lookout for chapter 131, titled Shinshin and Delilah Before Christmas of 2006. This is Do, Ra, me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.